I wish that type of fear on no one, because when you have declined other opportunities and then you hear like, hey, the economy messing us up. We may not be able to hire as many new grads as we thought. That is terrifying.
Welcome to Care to Elaborate with Taylor and Travarus. Today we're here to talk about graduating into turmoil. What does that mean? That means some of us graduated into the recession back in the early 2000s, I would say.
Yeah,
Some
like
of us
2008.
graduate. Yeah, very specific. All right, all right.
You're a little old, but it's all.
This seasoned.
You coming up on are you coming up on your 20-year college graduation?
Yo, we started today with jokes. No, no. What is it?
Are you not?
2008. Well, that's like
Yeah,
4 years
you
from
are.
now.
You
That's
3 years.
that's coming up on. We're not there yet.
Travarus, that's pretty. Anyway, look, continue on. I did not
Thank
mean.
you. Thank you. Some of us graduated into the recession in 2008. Some of us graduated into COVID, which is equally as challenging, right? With people having to convert to remote work and companies not knowing what to do. We're so excited to get into that. But before further ado, I want to make sure I introduce my co host, Taylor. Taylor, how are you doing?
I'm doing well today. I feel great. I think I said it every episode. I do have a little sniffle. I don't know what's going on outside, but other
Plus
than that,
one.
I'm fantabulous, as I say.
And if you needed a visual, if you are listening from Africa, the fall season, leaves are changing. My family and I are going pumpkin picking tomorrow. I got the flannel ready, got some boots, got the whole thing situated. But with that comes a bit of a shift into the temperatures. And if you're in Dubai, you might not understand what that means. So, we want to make sure we appeal to our worldly listeners.
Yeah.
All of you in Australia, we want to make sure that you understand the temperature and the visual of what we're dealing with. Where you think the furthest reaches is Care to Elaborate right now?
Ooh, this is a good question. I don't know, but something in my brain is telling me like Finland.
Okay, if you're from Finland, check in, man.
Yeah,
Like,
type in the comments below, like Finland, New Zealand. I don't know,
yeah,
something like that.
I need to see Iceland check in. Like, where you at, Iceland? Like, I need you to let us know that we got some Care to Elaborate, folks. But let's get back into the actual topic at hand, which is graduating into turmoil. So, as you all know, as tech professionals or tech adjacent professionals working in corporate America, it is required for you to go get your bachelor's degree in order to work in these buildings. In 2007, which was the year before I graduated, that American dream was real. You graduate, no matter what was your GPA, you got a job, right? It seemed like very few and far between that folks that graduated didn't have a job. So my man got a job, got a company car. That's what we were told. You go to college, you get a job, yada. For me, we graduated in 2008 and the whole world collapsed around us. For those of you who don't know, there was a great recession in 2008, and it really toppled the entire American economy. It was bad, really, really bad. Up until that point, we had only heard about the Great Depression, which was like the 1920s, but the recession was worse, and that's what I graduated into. But Taylor, I want you to chat about at least a high level overview of what you were experiencing when you were in college up until graduation.
Yes. So I started college in 2019, and in 2019, everything was fine and dandy. Now, to the point that you mentioned, Travaris, says people go to college and they automatically get a job. I don't think that's ever been something that I have seen or thought of, but we'll get into that in a minute. But 2019, and soon after, what comes after 2019? 2020 pandemic. And while I was not graduating at the time, I do think that the pandemic affected the way that everything works now. And so, what I expected coming into college is not what I got. And so, therefore, my graduation was a little bit different. And so, we have that aspect. And then we have all of this inflation. So I graduated in 2023. And again, this is kind of after COVID. Like COVID is a distant memory, but again, it's still affecting our everyday lives. And because of that, inflation was extremely high. And because inflation is extremely high still today, but There that idea of people graduating and getting jobs, it was just not as common as I thought it was gonna be. Now, luckily, thank goodness, I already had, a job lined up from my internship where my classmates or some of the people that I knew, that was not the same case for them, and applying in a job market like this one where everyone is just trying to get a role, so people who are manager level are applying to entry level roles and all this stuff, it's just difficult for people overall, and everything is high. So I'll stop there because I'm gonna ramble all day long.
I think you're hitting on something really good. If you've listened to this podcast, this is not your first time listening. I want to make sure that we do you a service by like, let's just cut to the chase and let's ask the questions that I think people want to hear, which is you two are people, I'm talking about us. We are people who have navigated this, which gives us the right to have an opinion on it. How did we survive graduating into such a challenging time? I want you to start because I think yours is a lot more relevant, which is also interesting because I have some insight as to the decision that allowed you to be here at our company. So I want you to talk about navigating graduation and realizing, oh, it's sparse out there. And then you actually getting the offer and starting.
Yes. So my whole thing was in 2022, this is when I started realizing like people are truly graduating and they are not getting jobs. And I started to get worried because I'm like, okay, my graduation is coming up. Time is moving for all my college students. Time moves fast. So in 2022, I started getting concerned because our college like reports on the numbers of how many people get hired when they graduate. And the numbers were still okay, but there was a little dip. And I was just worried. So what I started doing was again looking for internships where I saw that there would be the potential for a conversion because in my mind it's easier to get a job that way than for me to wait towards, my senior year and then have to apply when everyone and their mom is applying and looking for jobs. So for me, I had that realization a little early. And so that is why I was Travaris will always say I had 50 million internships. Well, to the point, that is why. Now, I will
Thank you
say,
for admitting it.
yeah,
About
yes.
time you admitted this.
Okay. Not f anyways, Travaris. So the thing that still occurred with me is that even when I had the offer, I was offered a full-time job because the market was so terrible, because inflation was so high, that offer that I had gotten went from being like a solid offer to
Oh,
like
okay. It
a
was like contingent.
yes, it went from being a
Yeah.
solid offer to like a, "We want you here, but the economy messing us up." And that I wish that type of fear on no one, because when you have declined other opportunities because you have signed this contract and you are ready to go into this role and you're thinking about moving, you're doing all these various things, and then you hear like, "Hey, the economy messing us up. We may not be able to hire as many new grads as we thought." That is terrifying. That is terrifying. And I it that like graduating into that truly opened my eyes to just the fact that corporate America can be a scary place. Like it really can be scary when your income is contingent on another person and a company's financial standings. One day you can be getting paid and the next day you're not. And that's
Yeah.
scary. So
Yeah, and I'll chime in a bit towards the end where I was on paternity leave, but I was working. Wasn't supposed to be. But the conversations were happening around. We had one person that was on board that was an intern, and the team had to let go of people. And they let go of contractors and people who had just joined. Simultaneously, it was time for Taylor to be able to join the team. And it was almost like a no-brainer, like, yeah, things are messed up over here, but like we're still gonna bring Taylor on. It wasn't a question. And I knew at that point that your work, what you provided, was a bit different and apart from what everybody else was because it is very, very difficult to enter a company with no experience while they're letting other people go.
I appreciate you saying that, Travaris, because I'm glad that I'm happy to hear that it was an easy decision to make to keep me on the roster because I was hearing that the decision was a little rocky. So I'm happy to hear from your perspective that it was an easy decision because oh my God, when I tell you my
Yeah.
stomach it was on the ground.
It was, I think that the rocky part was it wasn't your profile per se, it was your standing. So
Mm,
if you ever worked in HR, you know the word headcount is the magic word. Headcount means how many people you can hire, right? Now, it wasn't Taylor the human, it was Taylor the number that was in question. Okay, we have a person joining that is an intern conversion. Do we have space? But when it became Taylor the person, it was like, oh yes, we'll find a way for that to work, right? So there are times where you just being a number is real, but there's also times where you've made a lasting impact and you go beyond being a number because you've made those personal connections. And I think that that also speaks to surviving layoffs, which we could probably do a whole episode on. I've survived three myself, right? And I don't know the rhyme or reason as to why, but I would imagine it has something to do with relationships. But I can't say that for sure. I can't say that for sure. Why did I survive versus other folks? I have no idea. I have a little bit of an idea, but I can't be like, yup, I'm gonna survive the next one too because of this. That's, you know,
everyone is different, so
yeah,
and
they
it's
are.
it's equally as scary each time.
It is. Going back to how I survived the recession of 2008 upon graduating, I would say it was tough, very tough. And I'll be a bit more candid on this episode than I've been previously. I didn't get a job for 2 whole years. I had an apartment and I don't know how I was paying for that thing. I was on unemployment because I had a job for like 3 months at a bank. I let go because the economy was trash, but I had already got an apartment. It was just not great. But the interesting thing about that is I was big broke, super broke, right?
Super
But
broke, please.
super. But I had the most fun in that time.
What were you
And
doing?
all my friends were in the same situation. We were all experiencing. So all my friends that got jobs before, like, and they graduated in '06 or '07, they had been let go. So we're
Mm,
all like trying to figure it out. But like we tried to turn lemons into lemonade, right? If we're all facing the same things, we're gonna grind and try to find a job from like, 10 a.m. to about 4 p.m. But at four, it's like, what we doing? We all had apartments, we all had cars, well, most of us had cars, and we just figuring it out. It was the community of it all that allowed me to survive. And now this is the part that I want to hone in on very, very intently. I was unemployed for 2 years. I got my first role in 2010, right? It came super organically because what I decided to do was just open my mouth to one of my older frat brothers and told him what was going on. So he picked me up, regular day, we're going to an event. He was like, yo, what's going on? How you feeling? I was like, bro, I'm at my wit's end. I wanted to be a man. I graduated at 21. I didn't want to go back home. I wanted to be on my own. And I was getting my behind kicked. And I just happened to open up to him one day. I was like, look, bro, I've been looking for a job for like 2 years. I just can't crack the code. And he was like, well, what's your major? I was like, psychology. He was like, oh, one of my homegirl's friends is looking for someone. Oh, that's right. It's in Trenton. And I was like, okay. Now, also, I had heard many leads at that point in time, so I'm very cynical. Like, all right, cool. Well, just send the information my way. That person called me the next day. That next Monday, which was like 4 days later, I was in there for an interview. Got the job like 2 weeks later
mm,
because I opened my mouth.
mm.
Pride was preventing me from helping myself. Although I mentioned to you all that we all were in the same boat, I felt like I was less than for some reason because I was unemployed. Also, simultaneously, my friends, where I'm from, small town called Penns Grove, New Jersey. In that town, if you go to college, you probably don't come back. And if you come back, it's because you have family that you want to help. The number one roles or jobs that people have is like in a factory. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? But here I am. I went to college and I graduated in 4 years. And my homeboy that worked at the factory, he got a brand new car. He's working, he's making money. The pride in me was just like, I understood how that's possible because he has 4 years of working in this environment, and here I am I'm just joining the workforce. But a part of me was just like, how, man? Like, I did everything right. How am I in this situation? So my pride prevented me from speaking up. But as soon as I spoke up, I got my job working in mental health. Now I'm not gonna it wasn't glamorous, but it paid the bills and it allowed me to start my career and I've been employed since. But it's a challenging time. And here's a question that I want to ask next, which is, do you think you would have the resolve that you have if you didn't go through such a challenging time?
First, before I answer that question, I just want to say one key takeaway here that I hope everyone gets from this is yap. Yap, yap, yap. One of the things that I will say that has helped me, and to your point, Travaris, it can be hard to ask for help and to tell people what you're going through. But one thing I will say is that every single time I yap, things work in my favor. So to everyone that is listening in, make sure that despite what you may think, despite what others may tell you, that you are leaning in on your network and that you are, at least with, again, core people you trust, that you are letting it be known what you need. I think it is so important. I know obviously it can hurt your pride to ask for help at times, but it is all about community, and that's what we're all about here at Care to Elaborate. So,
And that's what I'm saying. And it took me to have an experience that I did not open my mouth for me to advocate. You need to speak up. And to be even more candid, this was my fraternity brother, an older one, right? And he did what I think he's supposed to do. I know this has happened to me, put you on. I joined the fraternity for that reason.
period.
That's what I joined it for. But what I was trying to express myself earlier on in the process, I wasn't going about it the right way. So I didn't yield any fruit. I didn't bear any fruit. I was asking guys like, hey, if you got any jobs in your company, it was pretty broad. It wasn't the one-on-one. But once I learned the power of that connection and leveraging relationships, that's what got me the opportunity. He knew me. He could advocate for me, right? And that's where the networking comes in. It's not just knowing people, but how intimately do you know them? Can they vouch for you? Can they say, oh, no, you don't got nothing to worry about? It's one thing to be able to say, oh, I know her, but it's something else to say, like, no, I'm going to put my neck out on the line for her because I know that she's going to produce really good work. So that distillation between broad networking and that intimate networking was the difference in that scenario, and it's paid dividends ever since.
And I love that you also said that piece because I that is something that I talk to people about often through LinkedIn is that I love networking, but there is no point in me networking with everyone and their mom if the relationships are not going to be fruitful. So I hate when people go to networking events and they're like, I'm going to talk to everyone because that's not what it's about. I believe in going and maybe talking to three or four people to
Right.
create that
Go
genuine.
deeper.
Yes,
Yeah.
relationship, because when you're walking around talking to everyone for an hour or 2, you're not really having time to, to dig in for people to learn more about you and your interests and your work experience and all that. You just talking to people asking for stuff.
But
And
also somebody like us who sees that person doing that, I'm not going to go deep with you. I see
yeah.
what you're doing,
Yeah, you're
right?
just trying to get everyone's contact information to
Yeah.
mass email everyone at the same time. And
We don't
that's
have time.
okay. But wait, you asked me, you said,
Do you think that you would have the determination that you have now had you not gone through such a challenging time when you graduate?
no, for sure. I don't think I would I would have it at all. I know that this experience opened my eyes to what corporate America is.
Hmm.
I before had preconceived notions about what corporate America looked like as a full-time employee because I had only ever seen it as a student. So I'm like, oh,
Mm,
la da da, flowers, rainbows, money,
right. Yeah, painted walls,
painted. I'm
food,
like,
yeah,
cute.
all the things, yeah.
Yes, I'm like all these things, benefits, whatever. And it is a lot of those things, but at the same time, there is that aspect of again, my job, my livelihood is dependent on someone else. So at any moment, the things that I'm used to, my rent money, whatever the case may be, can be snatched from me. And I mean, that is truly one of the most terrifying things. And because of that, because of
Still.
exactly, exactly, because I think about it, and for the people listening, it is so unfortunate how often after you go through this, you have some sort of PTSD,
Yeah.
and this is in all situations. So, like, it just really affects how you think and move every day. But to your point, as far as to answer your question, yes, I do have more resolve and I have more diligence. And I also, this encouraged me to build my own personal brand because at the end of the day, your job
Mhm.
can be taken from you at any moment, but your personal brand is something that sticks. And when I saw again people struggling to get jobs, when I saw that my job could be snatched at any moment, I'm like, oh, okay. So one thing that I will do is make sure that my name is separate from this company or separate from the work that I do or separate or highlighted in a different way because that is what I need to do in order to make sure that I am able to survive, if I'm being
And I
honest.
think that is a great point. You hit a lot of great points there. That personal branding piece, that PTSD, trying to figure out which direction I want to go. Let's talk about the personal branding because it's really important for anyone to differentiate yourself from your company, no matter where you work, right? And I know people love being a company man, a company woman, and they ride or die based on the products that their company makes or sells. But when you have your identity caught up into something that is not yours, it's gonna be tough sledding when that thing is not no longer affiliated with you.
Mm.
These companies that we work for are companies. They make money by reducing costs. Sometimes you are the cost that will be reduced. And it sucks. And I am praying to God that I never have to be a reduction of cost or I don't have to experience a reduction in workforce. But from the big picture, you understand it is not personal. And I think people are also surprised at how your creature comforts can be taken from you if you are not building that brand on the side to ensure that you are going to be okay. Now, does that mean that we're over here making 100,000, 200,000 on the side? Not yet. But what we're trying to do in even this podcast is establish our voices outside of just the building that we work for to make sure that we are number one helping people, but number two helping ourselves to build a brand that makes it so that we can take care of our families by providing information to you week in and week out. So I think that personal branding piece for you to learn that so early is remarkable.
I tell people all the time, I don't think I would have started on LinkedIn or even thought about doing something like a podcast if I had not gone through that. I probably would have had the thought, but the thought would have come later. The me going through that was truly the catalyst to push me to do more and to go further. And I encourage everyone on here that if you are struggling figuring out your personal brand, to take time to figure out who it is you want to help, who is your target audience, what are you good at, what are your strengths, and hone in on those things because again, those are things that could never be taken from you. But your job is not guaranteed every day.
So I'm going to see if I can paraphrase. This is something that I use for myself, but I want to see if I can simplify this for the audience. Are you saying because you've went through a tough time post graduation, you wanted to be the resource that you were looking for?
Yes. That's part of the reason. Yes.
Yeah. And I say that to say because I use that for myself also. I'm not a recruiter by any means, but a part of my job is to ensure that certain folks have pathways into the tech space, whether it's a technical role or non technical role. And when I was in college, I felt like I was very talented, but I didn't have a platform. So I felt like in order for me to get to where I needed to go, somebody would have to find me. I felt like a best kept secret, right? Now I'm going somewhere with this. I felt like my job at our company is to find me. And when I say that, I mean someone who is very talented, but may not have the platform or know how to get to a place like we work. If my constant journey is to find people who are on the radar a little bit, but maybe are not as confident enough to apply for an internship at our company. Because there's no way that in 2008 I would have felt like I was qualified to work at our company.
Yeah,
No
and I
way.
didn't feel qualified to work there for a long. And to that point, though, I love that you say that because I didn't feel qualified to work there for a long time, and also I never imagined working for a tech company because I never saw it. And I
Right.
love how you're taking your job and you're saying that students have the skills, but because people don't know what they can be until they see it.
Hey,
And if you're a
absolutely.
student growing up, in the inner city Or, if you're a student that may be first generation, you may not really know what is possible because you have not seen that. And, making opportunities for these types of students is so important because there's so much untapped potential. And I hate when companies are like, oh, we can't find the talent because the talent is there. You just have to go to where the talent is.
And this is, oh man, this is such a good part of the conversation because the untapped talent. So I'm going to speak about myself again, but this is all I know, right? When it comes to something happened to me between 2008 and 2014. And what happened was confidence. I began to recognize, oh, I am who I think I am in these job settings, and I was able to continue to excel in these spaces. Somehow, somewhere, I got the confidence to just say, I'm moving to California. And let me be very clear with y'all. This was faith. Faith, faith. And I say that because in 2013, I was like, you know what? I'm going to be in California in the next 2 years. In 2014, I was prepared to move to California without having, not without having a job, but like I was willing to go figure it out. I got a job and I moved to this place that I had barely researched. It was a beach town, and I just decided to just go. That decision changed my life, right? That decision, the confidence to be able to say, yeah, I've been my whole life. When I was 27, 28 when I left. I've been here my whole life. I'm gonna go to California and just see what I'm gonna figure out. There's so many people who don't have the opportunity to take a chance like that are still here and don't know how to tap into their potential. What I did was took a chance and went to California, not knowing a soul, and decided I'm going to try to see if I can platform myself and figure out how do I fare in a new environment with the skill sets that I have. So I put my skill sets to the test by just bouncing. New people, whatever I was known for in New Jersey, I stripped that. I was a Kappa. People knew me for basketball. I didn't tell anybody that I was a Kappa out there. I just figured out how can I make my way in this new space. And I thank God that I had the confidence to try it. But there are people who are listening to this podcast who had no desire to leave home. They want to be found where they are. And what Taylor is saying is building that personal branding platform now is going to be more advantageous than you know because you do not want to be beholden to the economy for how you pay your bills.
Exactly, because the economy, it be up and down, rising and falling each and every day, each and every month, each and every year. You truly never know, but with your personal brand, you always know because that is you. That is you and what you are known for. And again, that is something that will never leave you. So yeah, I encourage everyone to figure out what that brand is for themselves.
And I think that we're going into a space where we're talking about adaptability. And I think that on the other side of a challenging time is a lesson.
Mm, preach
What
it.
do you think are the couple lessons that you would give to someone who is graduating into a tough time, tough uh, environment?
I think we hit on them, but I'll recap them. So number 1, lean into your community. It is so important today to make sure that you are facilitating real and genuine connections because oftentimes now, because everyone is looking for a job and the market is tough, there are hundreds if not thousands of applicants applying to the same job. So that
Every day.
every day. So that new grad role you saw come out, it was probably like 600 students that also applied to it. And some of them most likely were not even students. These probably some people have been applying to new grad roles that technically aren't even new grads because they truly need and want a job. Therefore, it is more important than ever for you to be able to leverage your network to be able to say, like, hey, I know so and so at so and so company. Is it possible that you can refer me to this? Is it possible that you can put me in contact with who I need to be in contact with? Do you have any tips for how to get my foot in the door? Things of that such. That is so important. I've heard so many stories from people recently where they literally bypassed the application process and a lot of the interviews solely because they knew somebody at the company and
Mm.
somebody
Oh,
vouched for them.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like, I didn't like I don't think I as a college student, I knew that network was important, but I did not know that people really out here just getting jobs, like, bypassing the whole process because they
Skipping the
know
line.
Shirley. I'm like,
Yep.
"That's crazy."
Sure.
Shirley. So, that's number 1.
Shirley
I
got stained. Shirley got
Sh
pulled. She got
Shirley
clout.
got stats, she got pulled, I mean, everybody messing with her, okay?
Mhm.
So, make sure you find your Shirley or, I don't know, Stanley, whoever, to lean on. So, I'm just coming up with random names today, I don't know where this is coming from. The second thing I would say is to focus on trying to upskill yourself in one
Oh,
way
man.
or
You
another.
are taking us into a great direction without even knowing it. Keep going.
Okay, good. You know, okay, jobs have hard and soft skills.
Okay, she preaching now. Go
Yes.
ahead.
Nowadays, it is not solely enough to only have the hard skills, and it's not.
What's a hard skill? Tell them what a hard skill
So, okay,
is.
let's define it. So, a hard skill is basically something that you need to have to do the job. So, for example, if you are a software engineer, your hard skill is that you know how to code using Python or SQL or C++ plus plus or whatever, all the methodologies that I have no clue what that is. If you are in HR or something like me, one of your hard skills may be like data analytics or program or project
Mhm.
management, things like that. So skills that you need to have in order to do the day-to-day work, like the hard, manual, not maybe not hard, but the manual work that you need to do. A soft skill is more so something that is not something you have to do with your hands or something. It is what is the word I'm looking for?
It's intangible. You
Yes,
can't
it's
you can't
exactly.
touch it, you can't grab it. A
It is.
soft skill is like your ability to infer or to your ability to translate information to people that is very difficult. So if there was a really hard process, there a soft skill is like, oh, I can make this simpler for you.
Yes, I love
Or
how you said that.
facilitation or hosting events. Those like the things that you really some people have innately that you just can't teach
I
often.
I think the key term there was intangible.
Yeah,
So when
yeah.
I think of soft skills, I think of things like empathy,
Mhm, mhm,
communication,
mhm.
adaptability. These various things where these are skill sets that you'll need to navigate the workforce, but to again, Travaris's point,
Emotional
intelligent,
intelligence.
yes, cultural intelligence or
Yeah, yeah.
competency.
Yeah.
Things like that, that you need to be able to have to do your job and to make the impact. But
Mhm.
again, it is not something that you can touch. It's
Yep.
something that's intrinsic, that's inside.
Whimsical.
Yes. So I when it comes to upskilling, whether it's a soft or a hard skill, you'll have to figure that out where the gap is. But determine your gaps and then say, what do I need to do to make sure I have this competency? It
Mhm.
is not enough nowadays to just have the hard skills and not have the soft skills and vice versa. People think that because I work in HR that I don't have hard skills. I got hard skills now. Let's not let's
Mhm.
not say that certain roles don't have them. But it's all in figuring out where is your job going? Where is the market going? As you see, AI is coming out. So one of the skills that a lot of us need to make sure that we're filling in the gap for and upskilling ourselves for is related to AI and how that works. So that's just one another thing I would say. And I would say the last thing, if you're having a tough time, is to not be too hard on yourself.
Yeah.
It is
Some things are beyond you.
Yeah, some things are out of most things, to be honest, are out of your control. And I truly believe in if it is meant for you, it will always be meant for you. And if you are doing some of the things that we have mentioned and the wheel is still turning and you're still waiting for your time, wait in that moment. Because when you rush things, when you try to do things that are not meant for you, that's when things start going awry. So,
Uh-huh.
even if you know you have to find another type of job to do right now that may not be your calling, that may not be what you need, but it's just like that middle ground to get you to where you need to go. Relax in that moment, sit in that time because your opportunity truly is coming.
A few quick hits I want to get off. Number one, to your point about other opportunities that aren't your dream roles, no experience is in vain. None. So if you take a job at the YMCA, you're learning something there that you can translate to the next role. Next thing is the impact on your mental health. If graduating into a tough time is impacting your mental health, I 100% empathize with you. Number one, first and foremost. Number two, I would say try to detach your self worth from employment.
Yes.
And that is hard to do. It may require some help from a therapist if you can afford it, because I know that that's a luxury, or just having those conversations with people who are in similar situations, finding that community because your self worth is not tied up into who can and cannot hire you. The next thing, Taylor spent a lot of time talking about this, is consider another skill set. We are so, I'll speak for myself included, we are so fixated on what the dream is that we may miss out on other things that are right under our noses. I'll give you an example. I know what my skills are, but I've misjudged where that skill should be placed many times.
Mm.
I worked at a university. I was an academic advisor. At this school, they had what they call like a summit where you are the academic advisor speaks to hundreds of students 2 or 3 times a day to like acclimate them and welcome them to back to school. I made a game, got on stage, and I was like, "Who can tell me the answer to this question?" Made it interactive, and what I didn't know is that was a skill set of public speaking. I just wanted to make an impact. So my manager at the time was like, "That was wonderful, being on the fly. You having, this is almost 1,000 students. You don't know anything about the work, and you really handled that with grace." So what I thought that meant was I should be a public speaker. So I took public speaking classes, and I was going to embark on doing keynotes as a side hustle. I did probably 6 or 7 keynotes, and it was cool. But what I didn't enjoy was the preparation that was involved. You know what my
Mm.
one of my superpowers is? Being off the cuff. Give me an example, and I can run. Right? I articulated that improperly. I didn't do it the right way. I also thought that I could be a host for events and programs and things. Yes, I could, but the amount of work that it took to do that, and I wasn't interested in. So after like 8 or 9 years of figuring out like toying with this skill set of audio verbal excellence, I was like, let me try podcasting. And podcasting I
Mhm.
really enjoy, right? The storytelling, the education, all that stuff. So something that I learned in 2015 has manifested itself now into this medium here that you're hearing me on. So sometimes you have to try to see what your gift is through different spaces, and you never know what will be on the other side, because you just can't be scared to try the thing. And the same thing can be said for if you were dead set on being a software engineer. If that space is impacted, how can your skills there lend to being a cybersecurity analyst? Or how can it lend to being something else similar where everybody is not at, So
Transferable skills, you all.
transferable
Transferable
skills.
skills. You to Travarus's point, so many skills are transferable. And I think people think that for jobs they need to have 100% of the requirements or something like that. As long as you can tell the story about how your skill sets relate to what the company needs and is looking for, tell the story. Even if you don't have all the requirements, even if you've been looking for a job for a while, whatever the case may be, use what you do have to tell the story of the impact that you could potentially make and the impact you have made with your skill sets. I think that is also a big thing I would encourage people to do. And one last thing I also want to say is have fun. Travaris, to the
Man,
point where you talked about how you were looking for a job for 2 years, but that was the fun period of your life because you were just
was.
young and turned. You know, it is in this time where there's just so much going on in the world, and now you looking for a job, and now you stress all this stuff. When we say relax, you can whatever relax looks like for you. Make sure you take the load off, but also have fun in life. So if you want to go
Breathe, man.
see the free drive-in movie, do that. If you want to go with your friends to go get drinks, do that. Whatever fun looks like to you, make sure that you are still having it, because if you are solely focused on, success and finding a job and, doing all of this stuff, you're going to burn yourself out, and then by the time you even get the job, you're gonna be too tired to even work.
I want to say this, and I didn't. I want to. I want to. We're gonna get into tips with Taylor right after this. Right after this, but I need to say this because I need people to understand. There is redemption for the broke friend. Look at me.
Always.
I was the broke friend. I didn't have money to eat. When we going out to these events, I might have had a couple dollars to my name. What I provided was a good time. I wasn't gonna. I know what my role was, right? But there is redemption for the broke friend. I left, like I mentioned to you a million times. I came back to Jersey 2023, six, seven times, eight times better financially than I left. And that is because I had confidence in myself. So if you're dealing with a tough time financially now, or you're dealing with a tough time for us opportunities, don't trip. Don't trip. There is redemption for you. Your pocketbook does not define who you are either
And
right now,
doesn't.
right? Your opportunities will come, and then that's when you make sure that your pocketbook is right. But at the same time, if you are listening to this and you are the broke friend, right? I'm not sure if giving gas money is a thing these days. I don't know. I drive an electric car, but if gas money is a thing and you can't give gas money every time, you go just
It's
keep
all right.
working.
Like,
It's gonna
it's
be
all right.
fine. It's gonna be fine. Like you gonna make it. I believe in you because I was once the broke friend.
I think thank you for saying that, Travaris, because I think the people need to hear that. I love how you said it's redemption
It's
and being there
redemption.
because you know, all for every valley there is a mountain. So if you
Facts.
are in the valley right now, just know your mountain is coming. I was in a valley for a long time, y'all. And I had to climb to the top of the mountain. But now that I'm at the mountain, I'm like, hey, I'm lit. But you never know. There may be another valley. Life ebbs and flows,
It
but it's
does.
all about not letting that current take you out. Keep swimming, y'all.
Facts.
Y'all keep what Dory said, just keep
Just keep
swimming.
swimming.
Okay, yeah. Let's
With
do it.
that said, I think we've been dropping gems the entire episode, but let's formally get into tips with Taylor so you can let
Yeah.
folks know how to deal with these things.
So my tip for today, we're talking about difficult times. So I want to relate this to kind of what we've been talking about. So I recently moved, well, I guess it's still recently. A year ago, I moved to the DMV. And again, this is in the midst of some of this turmoil, making sure I still got a job. I don't know anyone. And one of the biggest things that I focused on doing is building community. Because to Travarus's earlier point, how he got a job based off of his network, and as we've been mentioning, jobs are not promised. One of the things I do in addition to building my personal brand is making sure that I also have a fruitful network. So, when it comes to building your network, one of the things that I recommend is going to networking events alone. And I know this is scary, especially when you're a new grad and you've maybe have never navigated professional networking events before and you're like, "Oh my god, there's 500 people in the room." I feel the same way. But when you go to these events by yourself and you don't have like, you know how people have that safety friend that they
Yep.
always have? Most of the time, if you're going with your safety friend, you just only gonna talk to your safety friend. When you put yourself in that weird, maybe uncomfortable situation of going by yourself, it most likely will end up getting you connected with people because you're going to be like, okay, I don't want to stand here in the corner alone, so let me let me go talk to somebody. And despite me being an introvert, me putting myself out there and going to some of these networking events and conferences alone have truly gotten me some of the best professional and personal connections that I've ever gotten. And I just know that if I had gone to some of these events with my safety friend or with a group of people, that I would have not made those connections because I would have been too worried about talking and staying with the people I know. So if you are a new grad and you are looking to build your network, it may be hard for real. You might have to write some talking points down. You may have to give yourself a pep talk in the bathroom. Whatever the case may be, do what you need to do, but try to go to these events alone to truly, broaden and expand your network.
The solid advice. Having that safety net is okay, but it's like having a plan B. And if as long as you have that safety net, how many risks will you take?
True, true that. Now that I've done my tips with Taylor, I know you all want some concise advice. And we are staying on this topic of networking today because it is truly so imperative right now in today's market. So, for our concise advice question today, Travaris, we have someone who asked, how do I reach out to someone for a coffee chat?
Oh yeah, this is an age-old question. And I think it's more complicated than simple. And I want to be very clear about that. What I would say about reaching out for a coffee chat is number one, define your intention, not to the person in the message, but why do you want to talk to this person? Is it because they work at a certain company? Is it because you've been connected to them or you've been recommended to them? Is it because you admire them, you've been following them on LinkedIn or Instagram or something for a long time? You have to state your intention. Number two, what do you want? What is the reason why we should chat, right? Not the I just want a job. It's not enough because everybody wants a job. So you have to number one state your intention, and then what do you want? Now this is all before you put pen to paper or fingers to keyboard. This is all of you deciding how do you want to approach this. And the last thing is, what are you offering that someone would want to chat with you? And I'm not talking about money. I'm not talking about anything that is like actually tangible. Can they see potential in you? What do you want to do? How would they benefit from investing in you later? So the simple that was a difficult part, but the simple part after that is you send a message and you state your intention. Hi, my name is Travaris. Uh, I've been watching your LinkedIn stories. I've been watching your LinkedIn posts for the last year. I want to get the confidence to say that I admire the work that you do. Next, you have to make sure that you state what you want. I would love to be able to pick your brain about how you got into the industry. The last thing is what is in it for them. I would love to have a coffee chat and I can explain to you the things that I'm working on and see if you have any ideas of how I can make that more fruitful. Or uh, I'm just someone who is about to graduate from college and I want to make sure that I am doing all that I can to put my best foot forward. All of those things will helpfully help you crack the code on asking for a coffee chat, even if you know the person. It's actually more beneficial to be formal if you know the person because you don't want them to think that you're just taking advantage of the relationship. You got to really come correct. So you got to state your intention, say what you want, and also what's in it for them. And refrain from being too forward with the yeah, I'm looking for a job. That's not gonna work.
Woo, that part, because people be coming in my DMs and it's no type of hey, hello, how are you? It's hi, my name is da 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 da, and I saw da 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 roll, and here's my resume. Can you tell me about this job, or can you hire me for this job, or so and so, without even looking at my profile to know that I am not a recruiter?
It don't matter. They just know where you work at, and that's the part that also speaks to like your aptitude in what you're looking for. Are you just here? Let's connect this. Let's connect this. Are you looking to network with everyone? Or are you being intentional and trying to select me to talk to because you think that I could help you? The same way you see that person schmoozing with everybody at the networking event, not spending time. Taylor says she chooses 3 to 4 people, want to go a little deeper. You on LinkedIn just sending this mass message and looking to find just throwing your rod out there, seeing what fish come back. That ain't gonna work with me, champ. You know what I
And me
mean?
neither, because I know
And
that you
also,
copied and pasted that message to 20 other people.
man, I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm never gonna lie to y'all. I'm not gonna lie to you. You could have the most well-intentioned message, and sometimes I might not respond.
Now,
My
Traverse.
bad.
Okay.
I gotta be honest. I gotta be
We
honest.
all about authenticity here at Care
That's
to
all.
Elaborate.
That's all. So, do you think we were able to elaborate on tips and tricks as to how to survive graduating into a tumultuous time?
I think we did. This might have been one of my favorite episodes. I really enjoyed this one.
Glad. So, with that, we will see you next week.
See y'all later.